My name is Amanda. I'm 35 years old, a pediatric nurse, and most importantly, the mother of two amazing 10-year-old twins, Jack and Emma. They're the kind of kids every parent dreams of raising, bright, kind, and resilient in ways that sometimes break my heart. 2 years ago, life as I knew it fell apart. My marriage of 12 years ended in divorce. It wasn't just emotionally devastating, it was financially shattering. My ex-husband, David, had been the primary earner. I worked part-time at the hospital so I could be there for the twins. Suddenly, with minimal alimony and shared custody, I had to switch to full-time shifts just to keep us afloat. That's when my parents stepped in with what seemed like an answer to my prayers. "Amanda, just come stay with us," my dad said, patting my shoulder in that way he does when he's trying to sound reassuring. "It'll be temporary, just until you're back on your feet." And for a moment, I let myself believe it was a blessing. Growing up, my relationship with my parents, Martha and Richard, was complicated. They weren't cruel, but they had a way of making it clear who their favorite child was. My younger brother, Stephen, could crash a car, skip classes, and still get praised for his entrepreneurial spirit. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who never caused trouble, and somehow the one who never quite earned the same sparkle in their eyes. But I told myself those childhood dynamics didn't matter anymore. We were all adults now. My parents wanted to help me and my children through a difficult time. We moved into their home just before the twins started a new school year. They converted the home office into a bedroom for Jack and Emma, and I took the guest room. I pitched in with groceries, cooked most of the meals, and made sure my kids followed every house rule, with 12-hour shifts, sometimes overnighting. Never mind that I was juggling 12-hour shifts, single parenthood, and trying to rebuild my life from the ground up. Apparently my struggles didn't compare to Stephen learning how to change a diaper. Still, I tried to be understanding. New babies are exciting. Ethan was their first grandson. I encouraged Jack and Emma to be patient and gentle, telling them their cousin needed extra care because he was so small. But then the little things started adding up. Christmas came, and Ethan, only a few months old, received gifts that were not only more expensive, but far more personal and thoughtful than what Jack and Emma got. My kids got sweaters that didn't fit and gift cards. Ethan got a personalized rocking horse, a hand-sewn quilt, and a stack of designer baby clothes. At family dinners, my parents would gush over Ethan, how much he looked like Stephen as a baby, how he was already so smart. When they talked about Jack and Emma, it was almost always in comparison to their father, David. Like their positive traits had skipped me entirely. Jack, my sensitive artist, would retreat to his room more often. Emma, my little athlete with a big voice, would speak up when she noticed unfairness, only to be told she was being dramatic or too loud. I told myself not to take it personally. I reminded myself that our stay was temporary. Just a few more months of saving, I thought. Just keep the peace. But somewhere deep down, a quiet warning started to hum in my chest. They don't see your children the way they see Stephen's. And if I didn't do something about it, that gap was going to grow wider. Of course, I had no idea how much wider it would get, or how quickly. Because soon, Stephen and Melissa would make a request that would throw our already shaky living arrangement into chaos and set us on the path to the moment I knew we could never stay in that house a second longer. At first. One evening, I found Emma sitting alone on the back porch. She was counting quietly under her breath. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked. Her eyes were wet. Grandma told me to stop jumping rope because I was too loud, but Ethan was inside watching cartoons. I bit back my frustration. "I'm sorry," I told her, hugging her close. "You're not too loud. You're just fine. I tried to carve out little safe spaces for them, movie nights in my room, trips to the park, afternoons at the library, but those were temporary reprieves. The moment we stepped back into my parents' house, the tension wrapped itself around us again. The kids didn't say much, but I could see it in their body language. Shoulders hunched, voices softer, laughter rarer. They were shrinking to fit into a space that was never really made for them. Still, I kept telling myself. Just a few more months. We were so close to our own place. We could survive a little longer. What I didn't know was that a little longer was about to be ripped out from under us, because my brother had a request that would turn our living arrangement upside down and make the favoritism impossible to ignore. It happened on a warm September afternoon. I'd just gotten home from a long shift when Stephen called a family meeting. That alone made my stomach tighten. My brother never called family meetings unless it was to announce something that would somehow benefit him. I walked into the kitchen to find Stephen and Melissa seated at the table with Ethan perched in Melissa's lap. Wearing an outfit that probably cost more than my entire week's grocery budget, my parents hovered nearby, smiling in anticipation. "We've got some exciting news," Stephen began, his eyes on our parents, not me. "We're finally doing that major renovation on our house, the one we've been talking about forever." Mom clasped her hands together. "That's wonderful, sweetie." I wanted to say something, anything, but I was trapped between my savings goal and the reality that I couldn't afford childcare if my parents decided they were too busy to help Dot. So I kept my head down. I kept saving. And I told myself we could endure this for a few more months, Dot. But I didn't realize the intrusion was only the beginning, because soon the favoritism would cross a line I could never come back from. A decision so outrageous it would push me from simmering frustration to a crystal clear certainty. We had to get out, Dot. The weeks after Stephen's family moved in felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of resentment. Every day brought some new reminder that my children and I were second-class residents in my parents' home. It wasn't subtle anymore, it was constant. Ethan got first pick of everything. Space, attention, even food. One Sunday, Mom made a full spread for dinner, all of Stephen's favorites. Jack and Emma poked at the food, trying to be polite. When Jack asked if there was something else he could eat, Mom's face tightened. "When I was growing up, we ate what was put in front of us," she said sternly. 15 minutes later, Ethan threw his plate on the floor. Everyone laughed. "He's just exploring his world," Melissa said sweetly, making no move to clean up the mess. The twins noticed. They didn't always say it out loud, but I could see the confusion and hurt on their faces. Then there was the fridge incident. One afternoon, Jack proudly taped a drawing he'd made for me to the refrigerator. 2 days later, it was gone, replaced by Ethan's daycare schedule and a collage of his latest baby photos. When I asked Melissa about it, she shrugged. "I needed the space. I didn't think anyone would mind." The twins started retreating to their bedroom more and more, just to avoid being shushed or criticized. I found myself taking them to the library after school on my... It was a Tuesday, one of my longest shifts at the hospital. We were short-staffed, juggling multiple new admissions, and by lunchtime I'd barely had time to check my phone. When I finally glanced at it, my stomach sank. 3 missed texts from Jack. 2 from Emma. From Jack. "Mom, something weird is happening. Grandpa and Uncle Stephen are moving our stuff." From Emma. "Grandma says we have to move to the basement. This is not fair." Another from Jack. "Please come home. They took all our things downstairs." I called immediately. No answer. I tried the kids' phones. Nothing. Panic gripped me. I told my supervisor there was a family emergency. She arranged coverage for my remaining hours, but it still took over an hour to hand off patients and finish urgent documentation. The drive home felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. My mind ran through every possibility, each one worse than the last. When I walked in the door, the sight that greeted me made my blood run cold. Jack and Emma were huddled together on the couch, their eyes red from crying. In the kitchen, Mom and Melissa sat drinking tea as if nothing unusual had happened. "What's going on?" I demanded, going straight to my kids. Emma bolted into my arms. "They moved all our stuff to the basement without asking," she sobbed. "They said we don't deserve the good rooms upstairs." Jack's voice was small. "Grandpa said Uncle Stephen's family needs more space because they're more important right now." I felt my heart slam against my ribs. I went into the kitchen. "Why are my children's belongings in the basement?" Melissa didn't miss a beat. "We needed to make some adjustments. Stephen and I need a nursery for Ethan, plus space for my home office now that I'm working remotely. So you decided to move my kids into the unfinished basement without talking to me first?" My voice was low, but every word was sharp. Momfie. Jack had stuffed his favorite drawing supplies and the worn stuffed dragon he'd slept with since he was 3 into his bag. My dad looked from them to me, his face turning a deeper shade of red. "What is this nonsense? You're not going anywhere." "Yes," I said calmly. "We are." Mom stepped into the living room, eyes flashing. "Amanda, you can't just leave because things didn't go your way. We've given you a roof over your head for nearly 2 years. "And I've been grateful," I replied, my voice steady. "I've also contributed financially, cooked, cleaned, and made sure my children respected your rules. But today you crossed a line." Melissa let out a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "It's just a bedroom rearrangement. You're being oversensitive." I turned to her. "Would you call it just a rearrangement if someone moved your baby into a damp, moldy basement without asking you first?" She had no answer. "The basement is perfectly adequate," Mom said firmly. "We raised you and Stephen without all these special accommodations kids seem to need nowadays." "The basement has mold," I repeated. "It's cold, it's damp, and it has inadequate emergency exits. Jack has asthma. It's not safe. It's not legal as a bedroom. Dad waved his hand. Those codes are government overreach. I almost laughed at the absurdity. You'd feel differently if you were the one sleeping down there. Stephen leaned against the wall, smirking. Where exactly do you think you're going to go? It's not like you've been saving much. What with your spending habits? And there it was, the assumption they all clung to, that I was trapped here, dependent, unable to stand on my own. You're wrong, I said quietly, letting the words hang in the air. I've been saving since the day I moved in. I've been working extra shifts, and 3 weeks ago I signed a lease on a house not far from here. The room went silent. The drive away from my parents' house felt surreal. The streetlights blurred past as if we were shedding layers of heaviness with every mile. Jack and Emma sat quietly in the back seat, each holding onto their bags like lifelines. We were headed to my friend Nancy's house. She was a fellow nurse who'd been listening to me vent for months, the one who'd told me straight out, your parents treat your brother's family like honored guests, and you like an inconvenience. She'd offered her guest room more than once if things got bad. Tonight, I was finally accepting when we arrived. Nancy was already at the door, warm smile on her face. You're safe now, she said simply, pulling me into a hug before ushering the kids inside. Her guest room had been transformed into a temporary haven, a queen bed for me, and an air mattress set up right beside it for the twins. Fresh blankets, soft pillows, even a little nightstand with a lamp and tissues. It wasn't much, but compared to the cold tension of my parents' house, it felt like a sanctuary. I got you guys some ice cream, Nancy announced, holding up a carton. And a movie. No rules about how loud you laugh. Jack's face lit up, and Emma actually giggled. We settled on the couch with bowls of ice cream, watching a silly comedy none of us really paid attention to. What mattered was that no one was telling the kids to be quiet. No one was criticizing them for taking up space. As the movie played, I glanced at my children. Jack's shoulders were relaxed for the first time in weeks. Emma was leaning against me, her laughter unguarded. It struck me how quickly the body reacts when it feels safe, how the tension just melts when you're not bracing for the next criticism. Later, as we got ready for bed, Emma asked softly, Are we going to live here now? Just for a few days, I told her, brushing her hair back. We'll be in our own house, so... We never said that, she snapped. You didn't have to say it. Your actions made it clear. Dad started pacing. This is about Stephen, isn't it? You've always been jealous of him. I shook my head. This is about you moving my children to an unsafe basement without my knowledge, and about you telling them Ethan deserved the best rooms simply because he's Stephen's son. You're twisting our words, Mom said. Am I? I asked. You said, our other grandson deserves the best rooms. What else could that mean? Silence. I went upstairs to help the kids finish packing. Their clothes fit into 2 large suitcases. Jack carefully wrapped his favorite books. Emma tucked her soccer ball under her arm. Back downstairs. Dad tried one more jab. How exactly do you plan to afford rent on your nurse's salary? I set the bags down. Dad, I make $65,000 a year as a pediatric nurse. I have excellent credit, minimal debt, and I've been saving for 2 years. I'm fully capable of providing for my family without your help. His eyebrows rose, surprised. I realized he had never once asked what I earned or how I managed my finances. He'd just assumed I was dependent. We made several trips to the car. My parents stood in the doorway, watching, saying nothing. When everything was loaded, I did one last walk through. Mom was in the kitchen, making coffee with mechanical motions. We're heading out now, I said. She turned, eyes glistening. I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. Yes, we are, I said softly. And that's why this hurts so much. Family should make each other feel valued. Jack and Emma haven't felt that here in a long time. That's not true, she whispered. Mom, yesterday you told them they didn't deserve the same accommodations as their cousin. How else could they take that? She looked away. No answer. Dad made one last attempt as I reached the door. The walls were bare, the furniture minimal, but the air was light. There was no tension lurking behind closed doors, no constant reminders that we were guests. Every sound, every laugh, every footstep belonged to us. After the twins went to bed in their own rooms for the first time in nearly 2 years, I sat alone in the living room, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. My phone buzzed with messages from my parents, angry demands, tearful pleas, back and forth waves of guilt and accusation. I responded once, We are safe, we are settled, and I will reach out when I'm ready to talk. Then I turned the phone face down and let the quiet fill the space. Over the next week, we fell into a rhythm. I woke up early to get the twins ready for school. I cooked breakfast in my own kitchen without having to work around anyone else's schedule. After school, Emma practiced her clarinet without being shushed, and Jack spread his art supplies across his desk without fear of them being boxed up and hidden away. Every night. I marked a small X on the wall calendar. It wasn't a countdown anymore. It was a record of days lived in peace. Days where my kids could be themselves without being diminished. Days where I could parent without interference. It was more than a new address. It was the first step toward building a home defined by respect, safety, and love. Values that had been missing for far too long. We weren't just starting over. We were starting right. News travels fast in families, and ours was no exception. Within 2 weeks of moving into the rental, it seemed every aunt, cousin, and second cousin knew the story. Although, depending on who told it, I was either the ungrateful daughter who walked out on her parents, or the woman who finally stood up for herself and her kids. To my surprise, the majority of the extended family fell into the second camp. Many had witnessed the Favoritism. I accepted immediately, knowing it would give me even more time with the twins. Meanwhile, the family gossip chain reported that Stephen and Melissa were arguing more. Without my parents' endless attention and my help, their perfect setup wasn't so perfect anymore. The renovation that was supposed to last 2 months dragged on past Christmas, and eventually they moved back into their unfinished house. Mom confided to me one afternoon during a visit without Dad that she'd started realizing how much she'd taken for granted. After you left, nothing was the same, she admitted. I thought I was helping Stephen and Melissa, but I see now it was at the expense of you and the kids. It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest she'd ever come. And for now, that was enough. The power dynamic had shifted, not because I fought harder within their house, but because I walked away from it. And as I watched my kids thrive in the safety of our new home, I knew that shift was permanent. 6 months after we'd left my parents' house, I thought life couldn't get much better. The twins were thriving. I was excelling in my new role as charge nurse. Our little rental had become a true home, messy in the best ways, with art projects taped to the fridge, music drifting from Emma's room, and the constant hum of laughter. Then, in April, an opportunity dropped into my lap. A small 3-bedroom house in our neighborhood went up for sale. It was nothing extravagant, just a tidy home with good bones, a fenced backyard, and plenty of sunlight. The asking price was just within reach, thanks to my promotion and disciplined saving. At first, I almost dismissed the idea. Buying a home had been a distant dream, something for someday. But when I ran the numbers and spoke to a mortgage broker, I realized that someday could be now. The day my offer was accepted, I picked the twins up from SCO. We moved in on a sunny Saturday in May. Friends and coworkers came to help, and yes, even my parents. We arranged furniture, unpacked boxes, and ordered pizza for everyone who pitched in. By evening, the twins were racing around the backyard, already claiming the best spots for a hammock and a garden bed. Mom sat beside me on the porch as the sun went down. "This is a good home," she said softly. "You've done well." "Thank you," I replied. And I meant it. That night, as I tucked Jack and Emma into their own rooms they could decorate, rooms no one could take from them, I felt something I hadn't in years. Deep, unshakable peace. Looking back, I realized that the day my parents moved my children to the basement wasn't just a breaking point. It was the catalyst for everything that came after. The house we sat in now, the stability we had built, the confidence my children carried, it had all started because I finally said enough. I'd learned that family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's defined by mutual respect, by kindness that's consistent, not conditional. And in that moment, with the keys to our forever home on the nightstand and my children sleeping safely under our own roof, I knew we had more than just a house. We had a life we built ourselves, and no one could take it away.